Hello, it's me, Robin, with Simple Food, Simple Life. Today we're going to make a simple soup, so stick around. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for joining me today. And thank you so much for taking the time out to watch this video, because we're just going to make a simple soup. I debated whether or not to call it cabbage soup, vegetable soup, or what. I'm just going to call it a simple soup, because you can make this soup into anything you like depending on what you have. Okay, these are the ingredients for the soup. I've got some chopped up celery, some carrots, and some onion. This is just a medium-sized onion. I think there's about 4 carrots and 3 nice stalks of celery. And we have a head of chopped cabbage. This cabbage was cost me $1.05 in total. The cabbage that I got this at Aldi, they weren't the best cabbage, but in that they were kind of lightweight. But this is just under 2 pounds of cabbage right here. But if some of you are familiar with cabbage, you know that it does put off a lot of liquid, and it does shrink up. So we also have a can of crushed tomatoes. I'm using these because that's what I had in lieu of tomato juice or anything else. I've got 1 can of diced fire roasted tomatoes. These are from Aldi as well. I've got some chicken broth that I made myself. You can see it's a little thick. It's more of a bone chicken vegetable broth. And I've got some parsley. I've got some basil. This is some sweet basil that I dried from my plants from this past summer. I've got some garlic, and of course I have salt and pepper. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to heat up a little oil in the pan. Let me get you down here where you can see. This is olive oil, actually. There we go. This is olive oil, and it's not extra virgin olive oil. It's a lighter flavored olive oil, which is good for cooking. And frankly, it's less costly. And as you know, things are going up, so I'm trying to make the Food Dollar stretch, and I'm trying to make the ingredients stretch as well. So we're just going to put in our prepared vegetables. This is just, you know, the standard carrot, celery, onion. And so we've got that. I've got this on high to start, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt to start the vegetables sweating a little bit. So we're going to get these going. Now you can see these aren't perfect sliced at all. They're pretty rough chopped. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper in here as well. Salt and pepper makes it taste good. If you don't have any other spices, those are the ones you need to have. Now I'm going to add a little bit of garlic in here. Just going to sprinkle this. It's just garlic powder. If you have fresh garlic or garlic in a jar, then go ahead and use that. But we're just starting with these basic vegetables because it adds good flavor. I'm going to leave this on high for a bit so I can cook these down. Now, I know these have just started, but we're going to add the cabbage. You don't have to get too precious about this soup. It's a very flexible soup. It's easy to make. And you could put a lot of add-ins to this if you so desire. Originally, I thought maybe I would just use half of this head of cabbage, and then I was going to dehydrate the other half, but this cabbage was very loose. It wasn't a heavy, dense cabbage. Sometimes you find that when you buy a head of cabbage. The ideal cabbage is to get a head that is very firm and heavier, a lot of times heavier than it looks, and very dense, but this was not. This was not dense. That's fine. I'm going to add a little bit more salt to help the cabbage break down. Grab my lid. And we're going to let this cook. We're going to let it break down, and then we'll be back. Now you can see that this is starting to break down a little bit more than it was when I initially put it in there. You can see that the cabbage is starting to break down, starting to release the water in it, and it's starting to smell really, really good. We got snow yesterday again. Shoveling was quite an experience. Got to get out and shovel my driveway, which I did yesterday, my patio. And but it was rather windy when it was snowing, so that makes for a fun time when I'm out shoveling. Alright, now this is broken down enough. I'm going to put in this can of fire roasted tomatoes for lots of flavor. Let's see what this can of fire roasted tomatoes has in it. It has fire roasted diced tomatoes, tomato juice, and sea salt. So that's pretty tasty. And the usual citric acid that they put in canned tomatoes to preserve the freshness. Okay. It smells very nice. Very nice. Now then, I'm going to add in the can of crushed tomatoes. Now you can add whatever you like. If you've got tomato juice, if you have tomato sauce. This just happens to be what I had downstairs. I'm going to turn the heat down on this a little bit. And I'm going to add in some water. I'm going to put some water in this can. And I'm going to add it to my vegetables. Now I added hot water, so hopefully it doesn't take the heat down too much. Now, I could just leave it at that. That would probably be fine. So, There's a very large piece of cabbage. Okay, that's really hot. Very large. I'm going to put in some basil. I could leave it as is, but now is the time when you can spice this up however you like. It just depends on what you like. And frankly, if you don't want to add the tomatoes, don't. You can add other vegetables. You can add mixed vegetables or green beans or lima beans or white beans. It's whatever you like, whatever flavors you're going to put in. I'm not putting any meat in this. You can. This is a good soup. It lends itself very well to ham, bacon. If I were going to do the ham and the bacon, I would probably leave out the tomatoes. You can do chicken, beef, ground beef, sausage, leftover, whatever leftover meat you happen to have, you can put that in there as well. I'm going to bring the heat back up on this. And now I'm going to add this jar of chicken vegetable broth. The vegetables is what makes the chicken broth a little darker, but that's extra nutrition. This is very gelatinous, so it's more of a bone broth. And you can see that I've got quite a pot full here, so I may not just add this second one. We'll see. We'll see how it cooks up. I'm going to add some parsley in here. I think that this soup is going to have a really, really good flavor. Let me grab a spoon because I want to taste it. I can taste this because the vegetables are either raw or partially cooked, and of course everything else is cooked. I'm going to taste this for salt. That's pretty tasty. It does need more salt, but I think I'm going to wait and let it cook down a bit. And then I'll taste it again, because sometimes this salt can concentrate a little bit. But you can add whatever you want to this. You can add corn. Maybe you'd like to add a can of corn or some frozen corn. By all means, do that. Make this soup your own. Okay, lid goes on. Heat's going to get turned down a smidge, and we are going to be back. While the soup is cooking, I want to show you something. This is what I do so that I usually have soup on hand. I do have soup that I have canned, which is in my pantry. But I try to keep, when I make soup, generally I will put the soup in jars. It doesn't honestly matter what kind of jar you use. These happen to be canning jars, but you can use, like for example, this is a jar that pasta sauce came in. So you can hang on to those and just use those. But I take the soup, I put it in jars, and then I eat it throughout the week. Here's some bean with bacon, and here's some potato soup, which was really good, and this is just the chicken vegetable broth that I try to keep a jar or two in the refrigerator. If I have extra, I will also can it. But this allows me to have a good, nourishing meal just of soup. I can have a soup mug of soup like this. It's a nice size mug which holds a full jar of soup, or I can just have a smaller amount of soup and have maybe a sandwich with it, a peanut butter sandwich or something on the side. So that's what I do. It's really simple, it's easy, and it always gives you and your family something that you can grab really quickly. This quart of soup would feed 2 people, each a hearty serving of soup. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind. And like I said, just don't worry about having a fancy jar or canning jar. Just use any decent sized jar. Pickle jars, the bigger pickle jars that I get dill pickles in, those work great for that, because those will actually hold a quart of soup. So that's what I do. I also, if the soup is freezable, I'll make freezer packs of soup and divide them into portions in a smaller bag and then store the portions in a bigger bag. So you can do it. It's easy to do. And soup is a gift that keeps on giving. It is a gift that it's nutritious food. It's good for you. It tastes good. And honestly, there's probably a soup that would feed a lot of people. You can make it so it feeds a lot of people, and there's probably a soup that everybody would like. Okay, so here's where we're at so far in our soup. I'm not going to add this second jar of broth because number one, my pan is full, and number two, I don't think I really need it. So anyway, this is going to cook down. You can add potatoes to the soup too if you like. I'm just making this basic soup just the way it is. But you add to this soup whatever you like. Some smoked sausage would be good in this. Some Polska kielbasa would be good. Some Italian sausage. Pasta, maybe a little pasta. I would recommend pre-cooking the pasta and giving it a rinse and then putting it in your soup, because then it's not going to make your soup thicken up. You can put a little bit of cooked rice in this soup. It's just absolutely whatever you like. Some potatoes would be good. Some sweet potatoes, some small diced sweet potatoes would be very good in this soup. So you choose, you make this however you want. It's up to you. There, see how nicely this is cooking up? Now, if you decide to add ham or bacon, you can leave out the tomatoes. Leave out the tomatoes, product of any kind, and just stick with a broth. And maybe potatoes, a can of whatever favorite beans you have. And you don't have to put the basil in. Put something else in, something that you prefer the taste of. Okay? I'm going to give this a taste for salt. And also to see how far the carrots are. Sometimes carrots tend to take a while. So, let's just give it a little taste. It's very good. The carrots are still firm. It needs more salt. And I'm also going to add some more pepper. It's going to have to cook a little longer because the carrots are still slightly firm. I'm going to add a little bit more garlic. And a little more basil, why not? And that's what a large part of cooking is. It's just cooking, adding, tasting. Add a little bit of time. You can always add, but you can't take away. Let's see where we're at on the salt. Just want to see. It's pretty good. Yes, the basil is good. Add it a little bit more. That's delicious. But I'm going to let this simmer. Now, if you decide to put other add-ins in your soup, make sure you have a bigger kettle because you're going to need it. That is for sure. Okay, this is our soup, our simple soup. I'm going to let this cook down a little while longer, and it will be done. And then I'm going to put it in these jars and store it in the refrigerator for meals through the week. So, all right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, if you can call it a recipe. I guess it really isn't one. And I do hope that you give it a try. It's very easy and it is extremely tasty, economical, and very nutritious. Okay, listen, I love you guys. I really do. I thank you. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this with people, because everybody needs to know how to do this stuff. And just thank you so much for being here. I love ya. And as always, remember that little is much when God is in it. Okay? And I mean that sincerely with all my heart. Okay, I love you guys. Stay healthy and be good. Bye.